Hi, everyone. I'm Diane Macedo. We're coming on the air with breaking news. President Trump has just released a farewell video as he prepares to leave the White House tomorrow ahead of Joe Biden's inauguration. Let's listen.
We are a truly magnificent nation. All Americans were horrified by the assault on our Capitol. Political violence is an attack on everything we cherish as Americans. It can never be tolerated. Now more than ever, we must unify around our shared values and rise above the partisan rancor and forge our common destiny. It was about America first because we all wanted to make America great again. We restored the principle that a nation exists to serve its citizens. Our agenda was not about right or left. It wasn't about Republican or Democrat, but about the good of a nation, and that means the whole nation. With the support and prayers of the American people, we achieved more than anyone thought possible. Nobody thought we could even come close. We achieved a series of historic peace deals in the Middle East. Nobody believed it could happen. The Abraham Accords opened the doors to a future of peace and harmony, not violence and bloodshed. It is the dawn of a new Middle East, and we are bringing our soldiers home. I am especially proud to be the first president in decades who has started no new wars. Above all, we have reasserted the sacred idea that in America, the government answers to the people. Our guiding light, our North Star, our unwavering conviction has been that we are here to serve the noble, everyday citizens of America. Our allegiance is not to the special interests, corporations, or global entities. It's to our children, our citizens, and to our nation itself. As president, my top priority, my constant concern, has always been the best interests of American workers and American families. I did not seek the easiest course. By far, it was actually the most difficult. I did not seek the path that would get the least criticism. I took on the tough battles, the hardest fights, the most difficult choices, because that's what you elected me to do. Your needs were my first and last unyielding focus. This, I hope, will be our greatest legacy. Now, as I prepare to hand power over to a new administration at noon on Wednesday, I want you to know that the movement we started is only just beginning. There's never been anything like it. The belief that a nation must serve its citizens will not dwindle, but instead only grow stronger by the day. As long as the American people hold in their hearts deep and devoted love of country, then there is nothing that this nation cannot achieve. Our communities will flourish. Our people will be prosperous. Our traditions will be cherished. Our faith will be strong. And our future will be brighter than ever before. I go from this majestic place with a loyal and joyful heart, an optimistic spirit, and a supreme confidence that for our country and for our children, the best is yet to come. Thank you and farewell. God bless you. God bless the United States.
That was just a portion of President Trump's newly released farewell speech. For more on this, let's bring in senior national correspondent Terry Moran, White House reporter Kira Phillips, political director Rick Klein, and White House reporter Catherine Falders. Thank you all for joining. Rick, I want to start with you. There's a lot in this speech when you look at the whole thing to unpack. But the overall message from President Trump here seems to be mission accomplished. To quote him, he said, "We did what we came here to do."
Yeah, I was struck by the fact that he didn't say Joe Biden's name. He talks about the luck and best wishes for the new administration. But yes, the overriding theme that we did what we came here to do. That's the message that he wants to leave his followers with. And I was also struck by the list of accomplishments and also his warning going forward. He said the greatest danger we face is a lack of confidence in ourselves. I think given the events of recent weeks and months and given this tumultuous period in American history, that's a rather strained reading of where we are as a country. And perhaps it's something of a rallying cry for him and his supporters on his way out the door. A remarkable speech in that it's being given at all, really a break with precedent in almost every way. But yes, I think the message to his supporters is to remain proud of what their view is of what they accomplished.
And Catherine, touching on Rick's point here, when you look at the president's tone, on the one hand, it's the first time we've heard him say things like he's wishing the next administration well, wishing them best wishes, saying he's praying for their success, and then also putting a lot of stress on luck. Not quite sure what he was getting at there. But what did you make of his tone overall? Given we're hearing that from the president the first time, it seems a little bit different than what we've heard from him in the past. But then again, that whole speech, almost 20 minutes, he never mentioned Joe Biden's name once.
Yeah, I think that's the important point. I think this is only the second time he's even acknowledged that there will be a quote, new administration. You didn't hear him once mention Joe Biden's name. What I actually was struck by, considering the frayed relationship between the two, was that he thanked Vice President Mike Pence after Pence refused to overturn the election. He thought that was obviously not in keeping with the Constitution, which, of course, angered the president. This, to me, sounded a lot like, in terms of the words, as a campaign speech, essentially. He ticked through all those accomplishments. You heard him say any other administration, I'm the only administration that could have delivered a vaccine in this amount of time. The tone more subdued. Obviously, you don't have the audience and the thousands of people who typically attend his rallies. But that was my main takeaway from it. And frankly, the fact that he didn't mention Biden's name at all, or he did wish the new administration good luck, but not specifically Biden or Harris. And this video was released almost simultaneously as President-elect Biden was touching down at Joint Base Andrews.
And Terry, it was interesting that he also mentioned that how all Americans were horrified by what happened at the Capitol, but also that now we must unify and rise above partisanship.
Well, that's certainly what he said. Of course, that riot, that attack on the Capitol, that insurrection and effort to stop the counting of votes in an election that he lost, that'll be the first line historians write about his administration. There's no question. But what we heard from him, he's going out the way he came in. He's going out as a nationalist. He was never really a Republican or a Democrat. He has this hardwired connection to tens of millions, scores of millions of our fellow citizens, like few other politicians, maybe no other politician that I, in my lifetime, has. He can bend reality for them. He won the election, and they were willing to storm the Capitol to prove it. This is not a politician who's going anywhere. You heard he talks about his accomplishments and about the vision, the nationalist vision, that we have to be confident in ourselves. Don't back down at all. I took on the tough fights, and it was all for you. I restored, as he put it in an odd way, I restored the allegiance of the government to the people. This is not a man who's going to go quietly into retirement.
Yeah, and Kira, he also tried to stress some international accomplishments. He talked about NATO and NAFTA, a lot of trade deals. But he also said something that I found really interesting. He said, the world respects us again. Please don't lose that respect. And he sort of really emphasized those words. You could tell he wanted that to resonate. And then went out of his way to mention that he did not start any new wars, that no new wars happened on his watch.
Yeah, and it's interesting how we can define the word war. He also mentioned, I leave with a joyful heart. Where was his joyful heart when he was inciting that mob violence on Capitol Hill? Where was the joyful heart when he was peddling conspiracy theories? Where was the joyful heart when he was talking about a rigged election? That in itself, so simple, but it really stood out for me because that's one thing we have not witnessed for months now, and that is a joyful heart. And you mentioned that he said, matter of fact, the quote is, I'm really proud to be the first president in decades who has started no new wars. Yet I drove into work today and I see 20,000 military troopers on the ground. It took me 3 times the route to try and find myself to get to work because there's such huge concern about safety here in our nation's capital and even across the country. And I felt like I was entering Baghdad again when I covered the war. So, talk about the war on democracy, the war towards the Constitution. We heard that word a number of times from people on both sides of the political spectrum. So he may not have started a new war overseas, but boy, his war of words really wreaked havoc on our country, especially most recently.
And Rick, he certainly wanted to keep most of this speech focused on listing his accomplishments, but he did take a few shots here and there, and one of them was when he talked about political censorship and what he calls blacklisting, saying in America we don't force orthodoxy. That seems like a shot at the tech companies that have banned him from social media.
Well, in normal times for this president, you could imagine he would have tweeted this out. He's not allowed to. He wasn't able to. This had to be posted in the more formal way of a press release from the White House and then posted on YouTube and elsewhere. It was sort of a reining in that he saw at the end that, yes, I think has harmed him deeply personally, and I think has become something of a rallying cry for the movement that he leads. This sense of stigmatizing, deplatforming, silencing critics. I think it's a overreading of the circumstances when they were specific to the threats of violence or further violence instigated, as was instigated 2 weeks ago. But it's a real and valid concern that's going to linger past the Trump era about what it means to be allowed to express one's political views, what it means to provide the platform that political views can be expressed in. That, I think, is going to get a lot of conservatives buying into it. And even if it is a selective reading of this era or rewriting of a portion of the history, I thought it was telling that President Trump, on his way out the door, would remind conservatives of part of what they view to be at stake in this moment.
And Terry, he left us with the movement we started is only the beginning. Do you see that as foreshadowing for what's to come for Donald Trump after the White House?
No question. Look, he has lived his entire life trying to avoid the word loser being attached to him, so much so that he defied math, that he defied 60 courts, including his own judges, that he defied each of the 50 sovereign states, and to the very end would not acknowledge the simple truth that he lost. So he wants to avenge that, and he wants to have a role in national life. There's no question about it. What that is, without that bully pulpit, without the spotlight, is hard to say. But we know one thing about Donald Trump. For 40 years, he gets attention to himself like few other human beings. I don't think he's going to disappear.
All right, we will be watching closely. Terry Moran, Rick Klein, Catherine Faulders, Kira Phillips, thank you all.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.